Hello and welcome back to the Azure DevOps course. This lecture will be the first one in the Azure DevOps self-hosted agent section. In this section, we will explore all the ways to install a self-hosted agent and run your pipeline from this self-hosted agent. You can install this self-hosted agent on a virtual machine, whether it is a Windows or a Linux or a Mac machine, or you can install your self-hosted agent inside a Docker container, or you can install it in a Kubernetes cluster as a pod inside your Kubernetes cluster. So in this section, we'll explore all the ways to install the Azure DevOps self-hosted agent. So in this lecture, we will start installing the self-hosted agent in a Windows virtual machine. I have created an Azure VM, a Windows VM. So we will install the Azure DevOps self-hosted agent inside this Azure Windows VM. It's a Windows VM running Windows Server 2022. So let's go and see how to do this. First thing, to create a self-hosted agent, we'll click on the project setting and click on the agent pools and start creating a new pool. Choose it to be self-hosted and give it a name, Windows-agent, and click on this checkbox to give permission to all pipelines to use this pool. So what is a pool? A pool is like a grouping for your agents. So it is a group of agents. So you can add more than one agent in this pool. And when you run the pipeline, you choose the pool, and whatever the agent that is free to be used, it will be used in the pipeline. For example, if you have 3 pipelines and 2 pipelines are running now and using 2 agents, and there is only a third free agent, the third pipeline will use this third agent because it is the only free agent. So you group your agents in this pool, and it can be used depending on which agent that is free now. So make your agents highly available so it can be used by more than one pipeline or more than one job at one time. So now to add a new agent, we will click here on new agent, and here we can choose the operating system. We have Windows and Mac and Linux. I will choose it to be Windows and the x64. So now first we have to download the agent executable. So we will copy this link and go to our Azure VM. This Azure VM, I have downloaded an RDP file and made an RDP connection with the Azure VM. So now this is the connection. I can go here in the Azure VM and open the browser and paste the download URL. So you can download the agent executable. So it is downloading now. So now the download has finished. Now we will open the PowerShell and paste some scripts. We will return to Azure DevOps. Here, to create an agent, we will follow this script. First, making a directory. So I'm pasting this command. Okay, now it has extracted the zip file. We can run the config.cmd file. That is the executable that will configure our agent on the VM. So I will run it. That's a script for the agent configuration, so you can connect to Azure DevOps. First, here in this configuration script, it asks me for the server URL. I will turn back and copy the server URL. That is our Azure DevOps server URL. I will paste it here. Okay, now it asks me the authentication type. We'll click enter for BAT. And now it asks me for a personal access token, a BAT token. To create a BAT token, we will click here on user settings and click on personal access tokens. Click on new token, give it full access. I will name it build agent token and click create. Then I will copy this token and paste it in our VM. Okay, now it asks me for the agent pool. We named it Windows-agent. That's our agent pool. And the agent name, it will make it build agent as the VM name. I'll click enter. Now it asks me to run the agent as a service. I will choose yes, so it can run as a service. Choose yes. And now it asks me to enter a user account. So I will enter the default user account for this Azure VM. To know your default Azure VM user account, I will open another PowerShell and enter who am I. This is my user account. I will copy it and paste it here. Then now I will enter the password. Now we'll type in to make the service start. So now it tells me the Azure DevOps agent service started successfully. If I click on services here, I can see the Azure Pipelines agent running. and I'm returning back to Azure DevOps. Here in the agents, if I refresh, I can see here now my build agent online. So okay, now we have installed our build agent on the Windows VM and linked it with our Azure DevOps pool. So now let's try to use this self-hosted agent inside a pipeline. So I will go to the pipelines. I have created a pipeline called Windows-build agent. We will use this pipeline to test the self-hosted agent. I'll click on it, edit. It has here a stage for the build. It's our .NET Core CI stage with the build and test and publish. And here also it uses the Docker task for build and push. So to use our agent here, instead of using VM image key, we will delete it. Type the name key, then type the name of our pool, Windows-agent. So now when I save and run, this pipeline should run on our Azure VM, on our Windows agent. I will save and run. So if this pipeline starts running, then it means that the agent is running successfully. But unfortunately, this pipeline will fail, and we will know now why. And now the pipeline has failed in the .NET Core CLI step. That's because we haven't installed the .NET Core SDK inside our agent. We have to install the .NET Core SDK inside our agent so it can run the .NET Core CLI command. Also, we have to install Docker Desktop inside the agent so it can run the Docker command. So we're turning back to our agent and install the .NET Core SDK and install Docker Desktop. So let's return back. So now I will close this PowerShell and open Microsoft Edge and type .NET Core 8.0 SDK. We are using .NET Core 8.0 version. Download the x64 Windows version. So now it's downloading. It has download. I will click on it to install it. So now the .NET Core SDK 8.0 has been installed in our VM. So our pipeline that runs in our agent now can use the .NET Core CLI commands. It can use the .NET Core restore and build and test commands. Okay, so what's missing now is installing Docker Desktop on our VM. But before installing Docker Desktop on our Windows VM, there is a prerequisite for running Docker Desktop. So Docker Desktop can run Linux containers and build Linux images. So there is a prerequisite for Docker Desktop, which is installing WSL. And Docker Desktop itself installs the WSL. A WSL is a feature in Windows that enables you to use Linux commands and making a Linux environment inside your Windows machine. It's a layer of virtualization that uses a lightweight Linux image so you can run Linux commands in it. So the Docker Desktop installs this WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, and uses it for building the Linux Docker images and running the Linux Docker images. It runs from inside the WSL. But the WSL is running inside a virtual machine image. So you need virtualization to be enabled on your machine. But now we are running already on an Azure VM, which is a virtual machine. So we need to enable nesting virtualization to run a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. So Microsoft documentation had a blog that talks about how to enable nested virtualization inside Azure VM. You use some PowerShell commands as administrator so you can enable the nested virtualization inside your Azure VM. So I will turn to it. So that is the blog that talks about the nested virtualization on Azure VM. You must choose a type of VM and choose the security type to be standard. And that is the command that we will use. We will first use this command. I will copy it and turn back and run PowerShell as administrator. Then I will run this command. Then I will run this PowerShell script, setup for nested virtualization script. Then here I will type A and it will start installing Hyper-V and enable the nesting virtualization. So now it has finished installing the Hyper-V and enabling the nested virtualization, but we have to restart our VM so it can finish the installation. I will restart the VM now. You have to wait 2 minutes so it can restart and you can connect to the VM again. I will try to connect now. After restarting the VM, we should also run this command so the virtualization enable complete. We run this command in PowerShell as administrator. I will paste it here. Okay, now we'll go to download Docker Desktop and install it. Choose the Windows x64. Now we're downloading it. The Docker Desktop installer download has finished. I will click on it to install the Docker Desktop. Now in this checkbox, it tells me that it will use WSL2 instead of Hyper-V. WSL2, that is the Windows subsystem for Linux that will be used to build and run the Linux containers inside our Windows VM. So I'll click OK, and it will start installing Docker Desktop and installing WSL. And now the Docker Desktop installation has finished. It needs to restart your VM also, so the installation of Docker Desktop completes. So I will start again. I have restarted and connected to the build agent again. And now I will run Docker Desktop. Click accept, skip, and now it is starting the Docker engine. And now the Docker engine has started, and now we can run our Linux containers and build Linux containers from inside our Windows VM. So now the self-hosted agent can run .NET Core CLI commands and can run Docker commands. But to make sure that the agent is updated with the new tools, we will restart the agent from the services. I will go to the agent and restart it to make sure it is updated with the new tools installed in the agent. Then let's try to run our pipeline again, the Windows build agent. Now the pipeline should run the .NET Core CLI commands and should run the Docker commands. Now the .NET Core restore command is working, so the .NET Core CLI commands can run now on our self-hosted agent. Now it has finished the .NET Core build and publish and test, and here it also runs the Docker command. It has built our image and pushed this image to our ACR repo with this tag. So that's all for this lecture. We have installed the Windows self-hosted agent and installed our dependencies like the .NET Core SDK and Docker Desktop, and enabled nested virtualization in the Azure VM. In the next lecture, we will see how to containerize our self-hosted agent, so we can containerize also the dependencies inside this Docker image, so we can use this image anywhere, everywhere, by only pulling this image from an registry that includes the agent and also our dependencies. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next lecture.